After weeks of waiting, Kaneki has finally dive-bombed his way into Dead by Daylight. With one of the most interesting powers we've gotten in a long time, he's certainly made quite the big splash in the current meta. Initially, I wanted to make a video as soon as he hit the PTB, but decided to wait until the actual release in order to talk about him in all his edgy glory. Was he worth the wait? Honestly, yeah. Ken is one of the strongest killers we've gotten in a long time, and has one of the most unique powers I've ever seen from behavior. Using his tentacles, Ken can launch himself across the map at insane speeds, and can use that power to latch onto survivors and put them into the deep wound health state. It almost feels like you're playing Spider-Man with the crazy momentum and map pressure you get. However, you can't down survivors with your power, making it necessary to hit them with the normal attack to put them into the dying state. While this sounds kind of annoying and like you wouldn't be super strong, that's not the case, because you can still use your tentacles to close large gaps of distance and launch yourself around the sides of a lot of loops, which can sometimes end chases before they even begin. This makes him one of the strongest killers in the game. Some are saying the strongest, and I can see why they think that, but I personally don't think he's nursed here. But he's still incredibly strong regardless. Maybe a little too strong, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. Like I said in my last video, I don't like talking about hot topics unless I feel like I have something to say that hasn't exactly been said, and this video is no exception. After playing as and against the Ghoul for a lot of games, I have a lot of opinions. Most are positive, some are negative. As everything is, Ken isn't perfect and could really use some changes in my mind. I was a little afraid to make this video because I don't want to be the guy that's crapping on everyone's parade and ruining something that's, people are finding fun, but I want to be honest about how I feel about things and give you guys my actual takes and not some kind of watered down version of them to make everybody happy. So I'm just gonna say what I think. I hope that's okay with you guys. Right off rip, I think Ken's power is absolutely awesome. It's one of the most fun things to use in the game. It feels like you're playing a mix of Wesker, Legion, and Blight, and that's a combination that doesn't sound great on paper, but works surprisingly well in execution. Due to this unholy concoction of killer powers, playing Ken feels like a non-stop rush of action, leaving almost no downtime for the person playing killer. It's practically 2v8 levels of something is always happening and you need to be paying attention. I understand that might not work for some people, but it certainly works for my ape monkey brain. If you're running an information build on this killer, expect yourself to be busy the entire match, because that's exactly what's going to be happening. The sheer speed that Ken can cross the map leaves little to no time to be holding W and praying you see some scratch marks. It's honestly a great feeling. It genuinely feels like you're in control of the game and not worried about things like the map size absolutely screwing you over the second you go to the wrong generator. Due to this, Ken doesn't feel map dependent, as the map size doesn't really matter because of his movement. He's able to deal with God palettes and windows surprisingly well, and is able to close distances between tiles very quickly. There's little that stops him from being able to pressure survivors, which is where my problems with him begin. Due to covering most situations very well, Ken can feel incredibly oppressive to go against. Almost all his bases are covered, which leaves little room for the survivors to adapt and play around him. His first hit is a freebie, with one of the largest lock-on features I've ever seen from a video game. It practically fills up the entire screen, sometimes making you hit survivors when you want to aim around them instead, with a lingering hitbox to boot. I get that behavior wants this killer to be accessible, but at least make me have to aim, come on. This makes it so your camera sometimes snaps to a survivor you didn't even see, and leaves the survivor just as confused as you are. This problem leads to survivors having to just anticipate being injured the entire game, as healing or trying to avoid getting hit to begin with is just an unreasonable expectation. It can even be detrimental to the killer, as you might not want to hit the survivor and instead want to launch around them, but end up hitting them just because the game wants you to hit them. It's a double-edged sword that ends up leaving a lot of frustration for both sides at times. That being said, the range is also incredibly long for latching onto survivors, so running early doesn't even work at preventing a hit. However, I don't have the biggest issue with this, as getting the first hit easily is sort of the point. Is it overtuned? Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get any arguments from me about that. However, when playing against Ken, I don't find myself getting frustrated at getting injured. It just feels like getting hit by a Legion, which I find less annoying than most people, to be fair. I think a slight reduction to the range and a slightly smaller hitbox are the only changes I'd really make to that initial hit. However, my problems with Ken don't stop there. The idea for this killer is clearly supposed to be a free first hit, hard down. We've seen this sentiment shared in other killer concepts like Plague, Wraith, and obviously Legion as an example. I assume this is because killers with powers with that sort of design end up feeling much better for newer players to use, which does make a lot of sense. It makes chases feel much less frustrating if you aren't super used to looping yet, but still requires you to use a bit of regular gameplay to secure an actual hook. I really don't mind this killer concept, as it leaves a lot of back and forth to happen between both sides, which is something every killer should have. I swear to God, I say that in every single video. When you have chases feeling significantly one-sided, it's typically indicative of a poor design. However, despite having a power with that design concept in mind, Ken doesn't really have to commit to that philosophy. While from the surface, Ken might look like some kind of super legion, he is, but he's kind of not too. He may get the first hit free, but sometimes the second hit can be just as free as the first. You're probably wondering how that happens, and I'll tell you. While Ken's power is great for latching onto survivors and inflicting that mythical first hit, it's just as useful for closing the distance after that hit. Due to an incredibly short cooldown to attack after using his tentacles to launch himself, and the complete lack of a speed penalty after the fact, sometimes you can stun Ken with the pallet and get hit before you can even make it to the next loop. He has the same problem that I have with Blight, where it doesn't really matter how well you play a loop sometimes because he can just outrun you to the next tile. This leaves you absolutely screwed if you're on a map with a bit of a gap between certain structures, which, surprise surprise, is a lot of them. Ken is even better than Blight sometimes though, as he can launch himself right in front of you, cancel his power, and hit you before you can run around the side of the loop to get to the pallet. At least Blight has to bounce off walls to keep using his ability. Ken can just grab onto pretty much anything and propel himself insanely far with a large amount of time to use his leaps. This is easily abusable, hate using that word, by anyone playing the killer. What most people end up doing is launching to survivors to force pallet downs quickly and then catching up to the survivor before they make it anywhere else. On some maps, like the new Dead Sands map, this is manageable because there are a lot of pallets very close together, so you can chain tiles together pretty well. However, on some older maps, it becomes really hard to loop the Ghoul for more than just a few seconds. In all honesty, this could be more of a problem showcasing how outdated some maps are compared to the ones that come out these days, but regardless, this issue can still be incredibly annoying. The icing on the cake are his very strong add-ons, and for some reason he's able to vault pallets and windows, and that can be a very annoying thing to try to balance. Behavior hasn't successfully done that very well for another killer. It can feel pretty annoying as Survivor, so I'm sure that's probably gonna get some changes. I don't know. I personally don't have the biggest problem with it, but I understand why some people might. I feel a little bad because I do genuinely enjoy playing as and against Ken. There's just a few things that I think need some small number adjustments. Ken has a really fun and creative design and isn't even close to being fundamentally flawed. This allows some small number tweaks to be all that's required in order to fix him, and fix is kind of an unreasonably mean word. I think some small changes to his lock-on size, tentacle grab reach, cooldowns, movement speed while canceling, and overall add-on adjustments is all he needs to be a well-liked killer. It may sound like a lot, but I genuinely think it's just some growing pains for a character who will be extremely appreciated in some time. However, I do worry that behavior will see the reactions of the community and assume they need to nerf him into the ground. I don't see that being necessary at all. I think there's a healthy balance to be found between making him a less oppressive killer to face, but still a killer who can be scary in the right hands. I think he should be a solid A-tier killer, as anything above or below that would be a disservice to him. But that's it for me, gamers. Have a great day.
No.
He's still on me.
I don't know where Jen is.
There's one over in that corner.
Guys, please take advantage of the absolute juicing that's going on right now.
We're not. Oh
maybe
yeah,
I'll
he's
take
right there.
advantage of the freest flashlight saving my life.
No, don't be that guy, please.
Oh, I can lift this pallet.
Are you sure?
Crap. I think I'm dead, boys.
Lifted a pallet.
Cucked
Bro,
his
what the fuck is Rain doing? Hello? Lock in, bro.
useless ass teammate.
Are you sure?
Actually.
This really goes to show you just how overpowered made for this is.
Are you sure?
Wait, let's all change your names on Steam to like R and U and sure.
No, it should be, are you sure? I threw a trash bag. He's coming here.
Oh no!
Actually, I'm not sure. Oh, he's not. I'm not sure.
Someone help me! This guy's bloodlust 500 billion!
He's gonna kick my butt!
He just gave me nopers. I looped that man for like 3 minutes and he gave me nopers. He hit me on a hook! Oh my god!